What are MVP and MMP? This really does just... You know what? The acronyms, they're useful. MVP, Minimum Viable Product, and MMP, Minimum Marketable Product. What do they mean? Well, Minimum Viable Product, you would think, was quite obvious. It's really the same as MMP. What's the minimum product I can get out? What's viable in the marketplace? What can we give to a customer? And that's one meaning of MVP. Steve Blank. Yeah, it also, however, means what's the smallest thing we can do to learn our next step? Which has nothing to do with viability of products. But hey ho, I don't get to choose the acronyms. I'm just explaining them. So an MVP can mean one of two things. Either what's the minimum product we can put in front of a customer and then be at least accepting of it. Not necessarily happy, certainly not ecstatic, but what's the thing that they're going to engage with? Okay, what's the minimum feature set that they'll have? Or it can be talking about experimentation, about learning. Both of these things are incredibly important to be clear about and incredibly good to have in your tool set. But the reason that I die a little inside when I hear MVP is not these concepts. They're good concepts. It's that they're misused and they obscure each other. So when I go to a client and they start talking about MVP, they look at me weird when I ask them what they mean. Because it's so clear, it's minimum viable product. Yeah, but what do you mean by that? So when you come across MVP, all I would ask you to do is take a moment to explore what everybody who's in the conversation means by MVP. Make sure you're all on the same page. Because I have seen with MVP and with many of the other acronyms in particularly the tech world, disagreements and conversations just go on too long because they're talking about different things. So it doesn't matter which one you choose, but make sure everybody's chosen the same one. Be clear about that. Just take some time out and say, do we mean what's a little test that we can make? What can we do to learn as we go? If so, great. Or are we talking about what's the minimum set of features that we can do to create a customer? Something that we can give them, and while we're not aiming for ecstatic, they'll use it. They'll take it on board. Okay. MMP, Minimum Marketable Product. Now, it's very similar to one of the definitions of MVP. In fact, it's almost the same. What is the minimum set of features to create a product that you can market widely? I'm not talking MVP could be going to one safe customer or a few of your friends in your customer base. You know, those lovely customers that we all look for that are willing to give stuff a go and give feedback and are engaged in an ongoing conversation with you because they care about the product. It helps them and they're willing to invest in that relationship because they believe that's going to be good. Great. This is very often a little bit more than that because it's going out, not necessarily to mass market, but it's going out to more customers. So what's the thing that as an organisation you're willing to say, we built a product? You know, my experience is it's a bit more than MVP, but it's still not very much. This might be that you are building a new app and it does the core functionality. It's got no bells, it's got no whistles, it's just a very simple thing that does what you expect. But it's good enough and it's absolutely professional and production quality that you can put it out there with confidence and with pride. Okay. Now, where do we use these terms? Very often internally. Okay, these aren't things, we're not going to go out and say this is the minimum we could have possibly done in the hope that you would buy it. That is not, I suppose people who are brighter than me at marketing may disagree, but I wouldn't buy that. Okay, but what it is an internal discussion to set a baseline. Okay, when we get here, this is good enough. It's not everything, but it's good enough to put in front of that particular customer set, or it's good enough to pass to the marketing department so that they've got something that they can have a chance of generating interest in and maybe ultimately usage or sales. Okay, so all I would say when it comes to really any acronym in the Agile world is make sure you're all on the same page. Okay? Acronyms are only useful when you mean the same thing. Okay? Then they're great shorthands. But when you start with a new team or a new organisation or a new consultant appears and they start using them, don't feel bad about just taking a moment and saying, can I just check that we mean the same thing? Let them explain it to you. Maybe you agree. Great. Maybe you feel a bit silly because you've asked what seems like a basic question, but it's actually very important because in that moment you've got clarity. And that means you can go forwards with confidence. People who are willing to go forwards without taking that really do take forwards a risk of talking about different things and potentially creating more problems down the line because nobody was willing to ask such a simple question. If you've got to this point in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, a like would be appreciated. If you want to hear more from me, more answers to questions that maybe you've got in the Agile world, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a question that you really want answered, drop it in the comments. I promise we'll get around to it. Thank you.